I'm Dr. Cindy, your host of the Positively Altered podcast. I am a chiropractic internist and nutritionist, and we love to discuss everything health related, physical, spiritual, emotional, work, family, you name it. If it relates back to your health, we are going to talk about it. Today is no exception, and it's really going to be a great show. We're going to hit on things that involve saying something when it's quiet out loud, meaning what is it are you going through that you need to express in a way to feel safe, to be valued, and to prohibit burnout? It's a really interesting concept. And my guest, who owns her own coaching business, is going to join us after the commercial break to discuss all of those things and talk about how we change the way our workplaces work. And we're going to get some great information. So sit tight, take a listen to our commercial sponsors, and we are going to be right back with today's guest.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? And we are back. I am Dr. Cindy, and you just listened to a couple of our sponsors that are really important to me. So thank you for doing that and joining us. I am so excited today to introduce you to our next guest. She owns EWB Coaching, and we're going to find out what that is all about, because coaching is such an important skill in the world, and she's got a gift that a lot of us need to possess. Welcome to the podcast, Whitlock Baker.
Thank you so much, Cindy. It's great to see you. It's great to be here.
It's great to see you too. And for those of you listening, Ellen is sporting my favorite color headphones. I love that. She's got orange. It's a Dr. Cindy color. So we're going to make that an Ellen and Dr. Cindy color today. So I'm super excited.
I try to have as much color as possible behind me.
Oh my God, it's so much fun. And you do some amazing books. And again, if you're just listening, punch that video so you can take a quick look and you can check us out, and then you can go back to the audio only if you want. So Ellen, we've got a lot of things to talk about today, right?
Yeah.
We do. But I want to start with something. You make a statement about being uniquely awesome. And I thought those two words together were so unique and so powerful. How did you come up with just that statement of being uniquely awesome?
For telling my clients that they're uniquely awesome, or just in general?
You're uniquely awesome, right? So what does that mean to you, being uniquely awesome?
I think the word unique is really important to me because we are all unique individuals. And a lot of what I talk about is, especially in workplace well-being, is we're individuals and we need different things to show up as best we can at work. So the unique piece honors that. I'm a totally different combination of things than you are. I grew up differently. I have a different family background. I might have had different experiences. There's things that we might share as well, which is awesome. And that builds community, but also there's community in recognizing and honoring our difference. And I think a lot of times we are taught to be homogenous or lead to the homogenous because it's easier. So unique's important to me. I've always been, a little weird. I was a theater kid. I was in marching band, but I've always been someone who's said the quiet part out loud, which doesn't always make me the most popular person in the workplace. But it's always been really important to me to name when something feels really unfair or that we're not serving our teams in the best way. So I think that's a part of being unique. And to me, that's awesome. And I really, really strive with my clients to get them to realize that about themselves, that what makes them different is actually what makes them great, and we're taught so much that we should all be the same, or we should, the way that we're striving for things is similar, or the way that we do our work is similar, or whatever. But no, do it on your own path, because the way you're going to bring yourself to it is you're the only you. And that's going to be really special.
So true. Now I want to unpack some of that because I think there's a lot of loaded information in what you just said.
Hey, that's me.
No. And I'm going to try to follow you because, I like to have those squirrel moments where I go down a path and then I lose the one I was on. So let's go back. You mentioned bringing your best self to the workplace. Has there ever been a time where you just didn't bring your best self to the workplace?
Yeah. And I'll say I use very careful language there because I use the best you can be, or the best that you want to bring, because I actually don't believe in bringing your best self to the workplace if it feels unsafe. And for a lot of people, particularly people of color, people who are neurodivergent, people who are trans, there's a lot in our current workplaces that does not allow those folks to feel safe. And women, a lot of us, there's a lot of things that happen in workplaces that are these old cultural norms that don't work for us. And it can be scary to bring your best self when your best self is, like me, authentic and loud. And, I'm going to say it like it is. And that is not always what serves me well in a workplace, which is not cool. I want it to be what I'm allowed to bring at work. So what I like to think about is, how do we get to a place where we can bring whatever our best self is that we feel comfortable sharing at work? And there's a safety and a trust that needs to be built with your team in order to get there. And it also takes a lot of unlearning, and some uncomfortable moments, particularly for leaders, because, we grew up in the workplace, we learned how to do things and what were the norms and what it was like, what you needed to do to get an executive position and all of that. And that is not all true anymore. And we're sticking to it, a lot of us. And so there's this danger of telling your employees to bring your best self to work when you haven't created a workplace that is healthy for them to do that. So I think that's I try to be really careful about how I say that.
No, it's a valid point. It gets me thinking about that statement of saying the quiet things. And, I know in my business, I'm the owner, I'm the boss of the business.
Mm-hmm.
I actually prefer the boss because I don't feel like a boss. I feel like a team member, but, and there's a couple different things, that I lead in, but yet I want people to feel safe, to be able to say and express themselves. But yet I know a lot of times they don't because they're concerned about my reaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Or their job security or what it said. How do we overcome that boundary as a leader, then I guess the question is twofold, right? As a leader, to really mean what we say, where it's like, I welcome the feedback and
Yeah.
the statements without judgment, but also to be able to be in that space to feel like it's okay to say those things. And again, professionally, right? I mean, I think there's a way to do it, but how do we cross those boundaries?
I think part of it is about gaining trust. And so, particularly if you have employees who have felt harmed in the workplace before, not necessarily yours, but somewhere, it's hard to build that trust back. And it takes time. And so, one of the best things I think we can do as leaders is set very clear, norms for our workplace, for the way we conduct our meetings, for the way that we talk with each other, for the way we treat each other. And we do that collectively. So not me as the leader setting those norms, but all of us together saying, okay, what is a meeting? What do we want a meeting to feel like between us? And what are we, if we are having a bad day, what happens and how do we talk about it? Or are we okay just not talking about it and saying, I'm camera off today? Like, how are we creating a workplace that works for all of the people in the room? And this is really borrowed from community organizing, community-centric work. My background's in advancement and fundraising and alumni engagement. And there's a great movement in community-centric fundraising, which is all about, rather than the rich donor saying, here's $1 million, I want it to go to this, you say, here's $1 million, and the community gets to decide where it's needed most. That's a really reductive way to explain it. It's much deeper than that. It's a lovely concept. So I really love that because it's about your community. Your workplace is a community, and it takes that nurturing and giving up some of your power as a leader in order to create that healthiness, And I also think you have to model it. So you're saying, how can you get, folks in your workplace to not be worried about what you might be thinking or whatever? Ask them a lot of questions. I think back to all the one-on-ones I had with my staff, and so often they were just rundowns of the tasks. And I might have said, oh, hey, how you doing at the top of the meeting? But it wasn't really a deep, deep question. And maybe they didn't feel comfortable saying it to me. So I also talk a lot about how do you turn those one-on-ones into really great conversations about really, how are you? How can I be more helpful to you as a leader? What's your biggest challenge right now at work? What are some roadblocks that you're hitting? So that you're, and then you listen and you're curious, as opposed to that sort of, we often have that go-to defensive, well, but you can figure it out, or here's how I would do it, our fixing. And that really careful, full listening is what it takes, I think, to really build that trust. So couple of things there. I mean, just really creating a community where the whole work community is involved in some of the norm setting and rule setting, and creating an environment with your team where you're honestly caring and asking and giving them time and space to talk about the things that really matter to them.
Yeah, it's interesting. Whenever we do team meetings, I always encourage people to bring their own ideas, right? Or their own challenges that they've had in the space, and to also offer up a solution, because I don't really want to be the one that offers the solution when I'm not the one having the challenge, right?
Yeah.
So I might not be the best person to solve that problem or solve for that problem. And it's interesting because sometimes I will have team members that will go, oh, you don't want to hear this, or, oh, you're going to be mad at me. And my answer always is, no, I'm not. And yes, I do. And I don't know how often to say that, where we can change that mindset. But I find that a lot of people are still very concerned and worried to bring those concepts. Do you find that in the work environment, it's more often than not that those are struggles then, which is why most people, have difficulty bringing this forward?
Yes. I mean, I think in particularly if you are a member of a marginalized group, it's really hard to trust the workplace. And I know that from reading and learning from a lot of other people. It's really, there's been a lot of harm done over the years in things that, I used to think were just normal, and now I know are harmful. I was just on a panel last week for this great summit called Rethinkability, and it was a summit on how we can advocate for and better serve folks with disabilities at work. And I learned so much because I'd never really given it a second thought. I definitely, like, obviously, if someone needed some kind of accommodation, I knew how to get that. But there's so many disabilities that you can't see and that involve a lot of chronic pain, and that might just pop up and be like, today, I just can't do it today, because I'm in so much pain. And we really don't create an environment where that's okay, especially when it's like, you got to be in the office 5 days a week again, or I want your camera on in every meeting. Again, like what I was saying earlier, that doesn't work for everybody. And it doesn't mean that that person is doing a bad job or will not do a good job. They need a different set of circumstances to do their best work. And so there's a lot of past harm that you have to get through. And also, like, you as a leader, you're going to make mistakes sometimes too. Like, I make them all the time. It's that sort of being willing to say, okay, you seem like you tell me you're afraid that I'll get mad at you. Can you tell me more about that? Like, where's that coming from? Have I done something that's made you feel that way? What's going on there? And then just listen, and not defend yourself, right? Which is the harder part for us. But I think having those really open conversations that bring it out and, into the open and as much as they're comfortable sharing, but then also remembering that people have experienced really toxic, really bad workplaces, and they might be really shy about giving their trust again for a lot of good reasons.
Yeah, you say something interesting about really listening. I think most of us have trouble with that. We don't listen.
Mm-hmm.
We hear to respond,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can hear ourselves talk, but we don't really listen for comprehension. And I wonder how many of us really need to practice that skill.
It's actually one of the best skills that came out of my coaching program. So I'm an executive coach. I had a 9-month training program to, all the things that you do to become certified. And we had hours and hours and hours of practice coaching with each other. And the hardest part for me was to not jump in and fix everybody's problem and suggest things, because that had been what I thought was sort of my love language, was like, oh, I can fix this for you. But it's so fascinating when you really sit back and just ask questions and let it come to you, and just ask questions and not try to solve or fix. It's fascinating what comes up, because often there's a lot under the surface that you wouldn't get if you were just like, okay, well, let me tell you how to do this, or I'll give you some advice, right? Which is everybody's favorite thing to do. And for me, like, I love relating to people. That feels important to me. That feels like how I build community. And I can do it in excess of, the pendulum can swing more to me being like, oh my gosh, me too, my aunt, blah, 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 as opposed to, okay, she said something that resonates with me, but I'm going to let her talk more about it, or I want them to talk more about it, or I'm going to ask them a few more questions, instead of saying, oh my gosh, that happened to me too. So that's something that I think we were talking earlier about coaching. Like, that is such an important thing about coaching. And it's such a good thing for leaders and managers to have in their back pocket, which is, you just listen and you learn how to ask these questions where people will answer, not yes or no questions, but, what's hard about that for you? What would it feel like if you achieved that? Just these questions that open people up.
It's interesting. I think about, as most viewers know, I have 3 children and they're all out of the house now, which is
I have a 12-year-old, so we're not there yet.
Just call me. I'll help you through it. But it feels like a huge accomplishment. But it's interesting to me because as a single mom of 3 kids, I almost feel like I've run my house as an organization, as a team leader.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I'm actually probably even better of that skill with my kids than I am even with my team members in a work. And I want to talk about that word too. I hate that word.
Mm-hmm.
In a work environment where it is, okay, how do you feel about that? And not guiding them, so to speak, as they get older with instruction, but come back to me with, what would it look like if, how do you feel? What kind of changes could you make? And it's interesting how I see my children being empowered in a way that's so unique versus always relying on a parent to tell them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really making me rethink even how I do this in my work, in my
Mm-hmm.
office environment. Because I don't want to treat my employees like my children, although
No,
they are
no.
like, they kind of are like, I mean, they're family, right? I do mean that. The people who accept a paycheck from me, I do deem family. They're my work family, but um, almost that same sort of guidance, right? Like of being that type of leader that empowers them and allows them to make decisions and choices
Yeah.
and explore that versus just telling people what to do. Because I do love to tell people what to do, by the way, Ellen.
I mean, a lot of us do, like, especially white women in our 40s and 50s. Like, we were trained to solve everybody's problems, tell them what to do, be super positive, be really perfect, have everybody like us. And those are all things that they're not necessarily a bad trait, but they can get in the way of somebody else's humanity because we're centering ourselves in all of that. And so
Right.
The unlearning of that is some of the hardest work I've ever done in my life because it's so ingrained in me. But exactly what you're saying, asking those open-ended questions and really allowing people to solve the problem how they want to solve it and try new things and fail and have failure be okay. You know, we are so afraid of failing, and it is actually how you grow. Everybody has to fail in order to get to the next step. It's just a natural step, right, in the progression. I wouldn't be here if I didn't do a lot of things, try things and have them not go great until I got to the place where I now know I feel the most comfortable. So there's this sort of there's this beauty in what you described with your kids, because I do think it's really similar. And I will tell you, the coaching program helped me so much in my family relationships, especially with my husband, because I mean, he's the one I want to correct all the time. And I want to tell him exactly what to do. And I want to be like, that's not hard. You can do it, you know. And I'm so much better now about being like, tell me more about that. Why does that feel hard for
None of
you?
them go home at 5 o'clock, Ellen. Like the husband and the kids, they're still there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the day never ends, right?
No.
Yeah, it never ends. So was there a time, you know, everybody's always got a story, and I'm interested to hear yours. You know, you're now working for yourself. I assume you came out of a space where you were working in an environment. Did something happen, or was there an experience for you that was life-changing that caused you to be so passionate about this topic and helping others overcome?
Yeah. There were a number of experiences, I think, that added up to it over the year. There's a couple that really stand out in my mind. I had a coach a couple jobs ago, and I was really struggling during the pandemic with that job. And just for me, it was not working, and I was not feeling good in it for a lot of reasons. She was so great and I think this is one of the beautiful things coaches can do in helping me realize why it wasn't feeling right, why it wasn't fitting anymore for me, and open my mind to what I could do. And that's actually when I started looking into being a coach. I still worked for another 4 years, but worked for other people for another 4 years, but I had started the process kind of then. And she validated a lot of what I was feeling, which was really important for me, because when you're in a workplace and you are the one saying the things out loud and everyone around you is saying, no, that's not true. Don't say it like that. You're not professional enough, blah, 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 blah. When you have someone who really is on your side who says, no, that I understand why that makes you upset, you know, that is okay. And so I've been able to kind of build this community of people that I now know also feel the same way that I do. And so I feel a lot less alone in feeling like our workplace is something that needs to be fixed. So that moment with my coach where I was sort of like, oh, okay, you're validating me. Like, I feel much better now because I know that me wanting to leave isn't my failing. It's that this place isn't working for me, and that's okay. It might work for everybody else. It's okay if it doesn't work for me, you know? And then the other moment was last year, I was really, really struggling with burnout. And again, it's not about blaming old workplaces for that. It's where I was, you know, and that's a lot of reasons. And part of it is these sort of norms in the workplace that weren't working for me. And part of it is that I was having my own issues, with mental health, or who am I, or what are my values, which I think a lot of us at this sort of midlife point, especially women, start to question. Like, I've done all of this work for other people all of these years and centered them. If I try to center myself, like, who am I? I don't even know. Am I anything? So I had this moment where I was out at a musical with my daughter and my husband. It was Beetlejuice, the musical, and a huge musical theater fan over here. And the lights went down and it started, and I just started crying, not because the musical was sad. I think it was just something about being quiet for the first time in a long time. I'd had a hard day. I'd come straight from work, whatever. I knew I was really struggling at work. I was crying on the way in. I was crying on the way out. I was, listening to my angry music. Like, it was definitely like something was not working for me. And I couldn't stop crying in that musical. And my husband was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know," and I kind of pulled it together so my daughter didn't see, but it was this really big awakening of like, okay, something is very wrong. My body is telling me that, and I need to honor it. And that's when I really started to unpack. It's when I made the decision to leave, which I didn't do for months later, but I made it in my brain, which was helpful because I knew it was coming, and that was something to hold on to, which I often talk to my clients about. But it was sort of this moment of exploring what I was feeling and why I was feeling that way. And that's been this whole last year. That's what I do on my podcast. It's what I've learned in so many of the books and articles that I've read. I'm learning so much about why the way that I felt in the workplace is valid and not okay, which is what most workplaces would rather you think, that, you should just do your work and be fine and don't bring your feelings to work. And, which just doesn't work. We're humans,
Right. I think and I'd love your perspective on this. I think there's a huge difference between the expectation in the workplace of being capable of doing the job based on a skill set. That's necessary, right?
Sure.
To fill a
Yep.
position. But I also think there's a huge difference in a person's choice to not express or honor or sit in the moment of their feelings, because there is a difference, right? If I'm not good at math, I'm not going to be an excellent accountant, and I probably will not hold that position.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
But if I'm having a bad day and can be honest about that, there's a recognition that I think is really important, to your point, that the feelings that we have are not a direct reflection of our ability to perform a task or do a job.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And we need to honor those emotions. And, it's funny. I've always said to especially in my my medical practice, I've always said, I do believe I like to leave my stuff at the door, right? I'm there to take care of patients. My focus is on them. It's not on me. However, there have been days that have not been such a great day, right?
Yeah.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
And as I say, if we need to take 10 minutes, if we need to sit in a room and kick and scream, if we need to step outside, like, I don't want you to not have a safe space to do those things. Totally. Because even though we're there to take care of patients, that doesn't mean we're also not here to take care of ourselves in those moments that we both want and need. And I think there's a huge difference, right? And
totally agree.
I've always said to everybody who's worked for me, you just got to let me know, right? Because I'm not a mind reader. If it's a bad day, let's have a bad day, and it's all right.
It's totally all right. Yeah.
We'll help lift you and support you around that as well. And it's not a cause for termination or, evaluations or anything in that nature, because everybody who is part of my team is actually very capable of doing their job, or they wouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, so much to agree with there. I do some work with nurses on burnout, and in hospital side, bedside nurses, which is hard for me because a lot of times I talk to my clients, who are like fundraisers and leaders. I'm like, it's not about life and death, but for these nurses, it kind of is. And it's really forced me to think differently about how you can manage your burnout in a workplace, or manage really high stress situations in a workplace that you can't easily just leave the room or go get some quiet or turn your camera off. And it's a lot harder, but it's about finding the little things that work for you and doing them. A lot of times I lead those groups through a breathing exercise just to prove that it takes less than a minute, and they all feel calmer afterwards, So we we often think that in order to reset ourselves or in order to make ourselves feel less stressed, we have to work out every day and eat right and blah, blah, blah. And all of those things are great. But if you're really, really feeling stressed, a minute of breathing exercises will be great for you. It's much better than doing nothing. So there's this all or nothing that we kind of have to get around in our culture. That these like little steps are just as powerful as the big ones.
All right. I love that for burnout. Let's go back real quickly. You say something about change the way our workplaces work.
Yeah.
For those people that don't feel safe or good in their workspace, what's a tool or two or three that we can start to implement to make that difference?
I'll start with saying I want to make it clear that it is the system that needs to change and not us. And I do think we get a lot of blame for burnout. It's us not doing enough. It's us not keeping up in the way we should keep up. It's hard on we make it hard on ourselves. And the workplace kind of can encourage that by saying, yeah, you've got to keep working at this pace, and we're going to keep taking on these projects, even though we may not have enough staff and all of that. So step one would be to change the system. That's a lot harder. If you're in a workplace where you're feeling like it's not working for you, there's a number of things you can do. And I talk about this and write about this all the time. Number one is acknowledge there's a problem. I think those have been some of the biggest moments I've had with clients and with myself, which is, like what I was saying about my coach earlier, kind of validating my feelings, like this actually isn't a healthy way to work. What you're expected to do is more than anyone can actually do in a day. And so just kind of sitting with that and realizing that can be really powerful, right? Because rather than like being on autopilot and doing all the things, sitting and being like, you know what, I actually can't accomplish all the things that I'm supposed to accomplish today. So that's a problem. I think the second thing people can do is set boundaries, and I know everyone says this, it's very hard to do. I've got some resources on my website for folks, some free resources for helping with that, like some scripts, because I have to practice out loud when I'm going to set a boundary at work. It's hard for me. I'm a people pleaser. It's very scary. But that's one of the best things that you can do, which is, hey, I don't check my email after 5. Or whatever it is in whatever workplace context you have. You have my cell phone number and you can text me if there's an emergency. But, most of this is not emergencies, right? Again, unless you're a nurse. So setting boundaries, acknowledging that there is a problem. And then for women, especially, and women in our midlife, we have to learn how to center ourselves and that's okay. And that's something that's hard. I don't know if you've experienced it, but it's hard, but especially when you're like in perimenopause or menopause and you're in that sandwich generation and you've got kids who need you and aging parents who need you and your work needs you. And that's also right when you're at sort of your pinnacle career, you're in your executive level roles potentially. You'd lose yourself. It's so easy to do that. And you feel like saying, I need this is not okay. You have to say, well, my team needs this, so I'm going to keep doing this. And my kid needs this, so I'm going to go to the game even though I'm exhausted, and all of the things. Learning how to center yourself is really hard, but so important. I'm curious if that's something that you've learned over your years too.
It is, Ellen, and it learned and still practicing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Still always practicing. And I think one of the mantras I've always had is we teach women a lot of times to get out of this word selfish because they feel very selfish, right? Yep. What I say is actually, language is so interesting to me because I think we put the negativity on the wrong words. I actually think selfish is a great word. Because I am selfish, and not in a mean way, but in a way that I do have to put myself first because I need me in order for me to be there for you or work or the things. And that selfishness is actually self-fulfilling and very comfortable when we understand that it's not a negative word. So, I love this. I want to take a quick break. We've got to hear from our sponsors. We're going to come back and have some fun, but I want to leave everybody with that really message. It's just right? It needs to come from within, and we need to take care of ourselves, center ourselves, and am going to take care of me so that I can do all of those things that I choose to for everybody.
You bet. You bet.
All right, Ellen, we're going to be right back. I hope you'll stay with us, and we're going to have a little bit of fun. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. Stop, hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. Welcome back. I hope you took a deep breath and you centered yourself over the commercial break. We are here with Ellen Whitlock Baker. And this is one of the fun parts of the show because I'm going to ask a bunch of rapid fire questions, which we all know are not rapid fire at all. But Ellen has had no preparation, no guidance, nothing. And we're going to see how she does. You ready, Ellen?
I'm scared, but yes, I'm ready.
Oh, don't be scared. They're just fun. And if you don't know the answer, again, there's no harm in this, right?
Hey, I'm trying to unlearn perfectionism. I'm all good.
Your centering is not dependent on the answer to the questions. How's that?
There you go.
All right. First one. What is one place on earth you have never seen you would love to see?
Ooh, Tokyo.
Nice. I'll go with you. I've never been there either.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Do you speak the language?
Oh, no. But I grew up in Hawaii, so definitely grew up closer to that culture. And I'm just so fascinated by the way Tokyo works. And it definitely has some unhealthy work practices in Japan. But there's also all these cool innovations. And I want to go to like a capybara cafe and go and get good food from a 7-Eleven and see all the beautiful scenery and the art and just learn more about it.
Oh my gosh, amazing. You see how this isn't rapid fire at
I
all?
do. Yeah. I love it though.
We actually really need to rename it as to Dr. Cindy asks a bunch of questions that take.
It's not as cool though.
It's not as catchy. Where in Hawaii did you grow up? I love Hawaii. It's so beautiful.
Yay. I grew up in Honolulu.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I've been to Kauai and Maui and the Big Island. So
nice. Oh, so you've never been to Oahu.
It's
lovely.
A few more to see.
Yeah, you do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What is the weirdest food combo you like to eat?
I like milk duds and popcorn.
Together?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd that come from?
I feel like a friend taught it to me, but you go to the movie theater and we got the cardboard boxes and we would pour our popcorn out into it. So it'd be all like warm and salty and buttery. And you pour the milk duds in and you mix it. And it's sort of this like sweet, salty combination. It also gets chocolate all over your fingers, but it's worth it.
Yes, it sounds like a stomach ache to me.
I know.
That's fair. If you had to swap lives with a cartoon character, who would you swap with?
Oh gosh, a cartoon character. Oh, that's hard. Thinking. I haven't watched a lot of cartoons lately. I might be Penny from Inspector Gadget.
Okay, I was going to say this will date you depending on when you.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's going to date me. But she's the niece, right? Or she's the, I can't remember. The niece of Inspector Gadget, but she's like the smart one who actually solves all the crimes. And
nice.
Which is, maybe that's a terrible thing because it's sort of the metaphor for like, let the man take credit for your work. But anyway, she had a lot of fun. So I'd go with that.
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking, I have to save it for another episode, but I'm thinking of who I would pick and it wouldn't be because I was smart. So we'll see that for.
I know, who has the most fun? It's like Jessica Rabbit.
I have to rethink my answer for that one. Okay. You can only have 3 apps on your phone. That's it. What 3 do you keep?
Let's see. I use, oh my gosh. Well, weather. I'd have to have weather.
Do you have an accurate weather app? Mine's never accurate.
It's very confusing because like my husband and I will be in the same room and we'll get different, it's like his says it's going to rain, mine says it's not. So, but it's accurate-ish. And what I love about it is that I've kept all of my cities that I've visited over time. So it's kind of fun to be like, what temperature is it in Dubai right now? When I'm sitting here in the gray, dark Northwest. Oh gosh, what apps do I mean, I use iTunes a lot. I listen to lots and lots of music. I love it. Obviously my podcast, other people's podcasts. So I'd probably need that. And oh my gosh, I can't, maybe YouTube, because I learn a lot from YouTube. I'm
Okay.
like, how do I blah, 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 blah. And someone on YouTube knows how to do it. So I would watch that.
Right. That's true. Everybody's an expert. That's for sure. What is there one word on the planet that you resonate completely with?
One of my 2 value words is wholeheartedness. And I think I live my life that way. And I really, that's a word I feel in my bones.
Great. Great. That's beautiful. And Ellen, lastly, what was your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
Oh my gosh, this was such a great conversation. I really enjoyed the questions that you asked and just getting to talk about things that I love talking about in an environment where it's encouraged, which I really appreciate, because I think these things are hard. And I've learned a lot of people are afraid of talking about this, and honestly, like are put off by it because it's scary and different, and it's about unlearning and being uncomfortable, and just stepping out of your comfort zone and saying, okay, this isn't working anymore. I have to acknowledge that. Now, how do I help make it work? And there's a loss of power in that. And I think people get really, really overwhelmed and stressed by that, and even angry. I've had people get really angry for some of the things that I'm saying. So I appreciate very much the opportunity to have an honest conversation with you.
Oh, well, today I hope for people listening, for a lot of us that need it, it is the start of changing absolutely all of that in a more positive direction.
Yeah.
Ellen, how do people find you, get a hold of you, hire you as a coach? Give us all the good info.
Yeah, you can find me on my website, which is EWBcoaching.com. I also have a podcast called Hard at Work, where we talk about all of the things that make the workplace hard and what we can do about it. And that's pretty easy to find on any platform where you listen to your podcasts, or hardatworkpodcast.com. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn, which we'll put in the show notes because I always forget what my handles are. I'm pretty active on both of those. So yeah, that's where you can find me. I write some articles for Forbes Coaches Council, so you can find me there too.
Excellent. Well, please make sure you check out everything that Ellen has to offer. She is definitely a ray of sunshine, and I just love what we brought to the forefront today on this conversation. It's been absolutely invaluable. I learned something every time, and today was no different. If you want to learn a little bit more about what we're up to in the positively altered world, you can check us out at drsindyspeaks.com. Please feel free to send us an email if you want at hello@drsindyspeaks.com, and pick up the book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag, on Amazon. And if you don't read, because I know some of you don't, that was directed at one of my children who don't read, you can absolutely get the audio version as well and listen to the story right there. Ellen, it has been truly my pleasure as well. I hope that this show today has left everybody positively altered.